What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to give you guys a very quick update on the markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just about 2 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market very quickly. Just know that right now the market is just range bound. We did get this dip that we were talking about in my morning video. And if anything, the market remains range bound until we get to Jerome Powell. The guy is going to be giving his speech at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he's going to be talking about interest rates and the economy. So I'll give you guys another warning about that in just a couple of hours. But for now, just know this. There was a wick that formed here. So this might lead to an attempt to push higher. But despite that, I think that the market is still just stuck within a range. So we have 595 as our main support where SPY is getting bought back up. And for resistance, we're essentially looking at 596.5. If we manage to get above that, we could get very close to about the 597.3 area, very close to our 50 EMA. Otherwise, I just think that even if we do push a little higher, we're still range bound, guys. The bigger range is between 599 and 595. We're just stuck in between that area. And for the time being, I just think that we will continue to shuffle going back and forth for now. Now, things could shift depending on what happens with Jerome Powell and the Fed. But for the time being, we just remain range bound. For ES, it's trying to hold its 200 EMA. So look at 6,002 as our main support. The main resistance is going to be close to 6,013. As of right now, we're stuck in between these levels. So I think we just continue to do that for now until we hear from what Jerome Powell has to say. On the other hand, Nvda looks a little bit more bullish than the market. We got this liquidity grab down here. So we did get this dip we were talking about all the way down to about the 146 area, only to get bought back up. So we could attempt to push up to about 149.5. We could push a little bit higher, but then I think that Nvidia will shuffle up here because it's been known to shuffle in this range between 148 and 150. So I think we push very close to that range before we see a lot of shuffling. Then we'll have to see what happens with Powell's speech. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin has dipped a bit all the way down to about 88,000 flats. Now it's trying to get bought back up. So we're going to be looking at 89,250 as resistance and then 89,969 as the next resistance above that. So a little bit more upside, and we'll see how it kind of continues as we're just stuck within this range. And I think we're just going to most likely range trade for now on Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is getting ready for another big move up, and I do think there's a lot more upside coming once we surpass the 100,000 mark. But for the time being, I think that we are just going to continue to consolidate. We're due to do that before we see a much bigger pump later on. So just keep that in mind. As far as Tesla goes, it's not looking that great because we are below the 322 main support on the 4-hour time frame. It's going to try to reclaim that, but for the most part, this is not the best of signs. So Tesla has resistance approaching at 322. If we get back above that, we could attempt to get closer to 325. Our support's at 319, not to mention 317, close to the 200 EMA. And if that fails us, there's going to be a risk of 312. So a bigger dump will come if we lose our 200 EMA. These are some tight levels on Tesla. We're kind of stuck for now. It might attempt to push closer to the mid 320s, but the main move is going to come once we hear from the big guy, Jerome Powell. So we're waiting for that. For the NQ chart, we're pretty much range bound for now. There could be a more, somewhat more bearish structure that's developing, but I would say we're just range bound. So look at 21,200 as resistance, and then 21,050 is the main support. We could attempt to push for 21,133, and we'll have to see how it goes from here. So look for a little bit more upside, and we'll see how things end up progressing. The QQQ might also push for 512. We're still stuck between 510 and 515. That's the main range. Look for an attempt to shuffle at the 512s before we see another reaction. Otherwise, we're just range bound. Apple may attempt to push higher as well. I think that this may attempt to get back up here towards 228 if we manage to hold above 227. So it's kind of tight, but I do see some more upside potential in Apple as we're holding a nice uptrend here. So there's upside potential to try to get back up to these highs to 228. So this is looking pretty good. However, the IWM is looking more bearish because we lost our key support at the 200 EMA. There is a head and shoulders also forming in the 30 minutes time frame. If we fail to hold 233, we have this gap to fill back down here towards 230, then 226, and we have resistance at 237. So I think the odds are favoring downside. with the head and shoulders, but we'll see what happens with Jerome Powell's speech. Just be very mindful of this on the IWM. We don't have confirmation of a true break yet for the head and shoulders, but I just want to call it out because you want to be careful, especially with Jerome Powell about to give a speech. We're going to go back to Coinbase. We called out a potential dump to fill the gap. That's what happened. We dumped to fill this gap over here. So we got the dump. Now it's trying to get bought back up. So we'll see if we try to reclaim 285. If we do, we're looking for 289 as a potential target. So it has potential to bounce. Amazon is a little bit more bearish. It actually dipped down to 212 after losing 216. So we have 216, 214, and 212 as our main supports. And our resistance levels. And now we're trying to get bought back up. If we reclaim 212.6, we're looking for 214 as our target. It could try to rebound, so give it some time. Meta could attempt to reclaim 580, so it might be a small push for the 580 to 582 area before it continues to shuffle. Microsoft may also try to push for 428 or above, so this accumulation could be forming like a nice cup. This could be attempting to get back up to 428, so there might be a bounce on Microsoft. And then Google looks a little bit more bearish to me. We could be approaching 175 before we try to bounce. So look for a little bit more downside, if anything else. That being said, guys, the market's range bound for the most part. I think that the moves don't matter as much until we hear what Jerome Powell has to say. There is a wick that formed here, which could actually lead to some upside on SPY temporarily. But for the most part, even if we do get a little bit of upside, the main move is going to come once we hear from what the Jerome Powell or the big guy Jerome Powell has to say. That being said, I thank you for listening. I'll be back in a couple of hours for other updates to update everyone on what Jerome Powell might be saying and when he's going to be giving his speech. I'm also going to give you guys more insights on what he could be saying. So I'm going to talk more about that in just a couple of hours. Just don't forget that he is giving his speech at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it's very close to market close. And the speech may go on very close to close. So it's going to be looking for a big reaction, especially as we approach like Friday. So will he pump the market higher? Will he dump us? We'll have to wait and see. Just know that SPY does have this wick here, which does and could possibly lead to upside later. Not a guarantee, though. It depends on what Jerome Powell says. Otherwise, we're just range bound. So, with that being said, I really appreciate you guys so much for your attention. I'll be back in hopefully a couple of hours. And until then, just know the market just remains very choppy. So, don't really expect much. And if you're holding options, just be very careful because there's going to be not only a data decay for short-term options, but the delta is going to be taking it's going to be affecting things a lot more because of the way that we're chopping around. So if you're holding short-term options, be careful. They could lose valuation kind of quickly because of this chop. So keep that in mind, guys, and heed my warnings. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.